Heirloom sewing lends a bit of romance to my sewing. I love the ingredients of fabric, lace, ribbons, and trim. Sometimes I have time for sewing intricate designs. At other times, I love to finish a project quickly and easily. Both types of projects hold love in the stitches. Today's show is full of the romance of heirloom. We have a little romance for your wardrobe, a dainty bit of romance for your table linens, and the romantic poetry of sentimental words for your machine embroidery. We believe you will be enchanted by the end of our romantic adventure. Welcome to my sewing room. This fabulous jacket, I promised you a little romance, the romance of sewing and having fun with your sewing machine. The jacket is incredible. The collar has a wonderful wing needle work with the tatting around it, machine stitches and fabric inserts. I think you're going to especially love these buttons and buttonholes. The buttons are machine embroidery on fabric, and then it's been cut out and covered. This is a wonderful technique. This is a faux tatting done on your sewing machine, bordered by a little bit of real tatting. If some of you have a little tatting, you can make a faux tatting insertion to go with it. The insertion over here is beside the turquoise strip with the lace cathedral windows. And then as we go down on the jacket, on the other side of the jacket, we have a beautiful large machine embroidered motif, and then more of the faux tatting with the real tatting below it, and a pretty little cuff. Today I'm going to show you briefly how to do a faux tatting if you need an insertion to go with your edging. You take a piece of fabric and a tearaway stabilizer, then you can stitch a little stitch that looks exactly like tatting, trim it away, and you're now ready to butt your regular tatting up to your faux tatting, and it looks as if you had tatting insertion and tatting edging, which is kind of hard to come by. I'm so pleased to have as my guest today my dear friend Hope Yoder. Hope is the owner of Designs by Hope Yoder Incorporated. She is a Martha Pullen licensed teacher, a designer for So Beautiful magazine, and a teacher at the School of Art Fashion in Huntsville. Hope, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Martha.
It's so good. Now show us your magic.
Well, like Martha said, this is what we're going to be creating. We're going to first heavily starch some linen fabric, create a decorative stitch using some 12-weight thread, and then we'll bridge some purchase tatting to the embellished strip. The very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take some handkerchief linen. I'm going to very heavily starch it by running 3 or 4 coats of starch and ironing in between. And then I have some tearaway stabilizer. I'm going to be using some decorative threads. These are special threads. They're 12 weight, which means they're very heavy. A lot of different varieties of colors. In the machine we have, Martha, we have a pink, so you can see the contrast color. We've also used a cording foot. This is a 5-hole cording foot, and we've threaded 2 strands of the 12 weight thread through the outer back holes. And I'm going to select a stitch on my machine that looks like a ladder with feather stitch in between. I've drawn a line using chalk marker, and I'm going to stitch right down the drawn line using tearaway stabilizer underneath. As I stitch, the trick is to have the stitch wide enough so that the thread jumps over the cords in the outer hole. We'll stitch a little bit so you can see. Now I've got 12 weight thread going through the cording foot and also through the needle, so I've used a very large needle, a 100 top stitch needle.
This is going to make that wonderful faux tatting that you've used.
It just makes a really nice wide heavy
really
trim.
Nice stitch.
So we'll stop, take this off. You can see how nice that looks. Then once we've got the decorative stitches done, they'll look like this. We're going to have to take our fabric and fold it back. And so we're going to fold this back on itself so that we have a nice folded edge. Once the edge is folded, then we'll take some pretty purchase tatting that's also starched very heavily. And then we're going to use an edge joining foot. That's the foot with a guide bar in the middle. And then we're going to select a bridging stitch, which looks like a straight stitch and then a zigzag stitch. And we're going to join the two pieces together, butting them up to each other and zigzag them together. And again, that gives us this beautiful finished tatting insertion. Then when we're ready, we can insert this as we would a piping into two different pieces of fabric, making it a unique trim.
Hope, one of the things I thought about when I saw that beautiful application on your jacket was so many of us have in our treasure of things from our mothers or grandmothers a little bit of tatted edging, and we don't have any bridging to go with it. So this would be wonderful
to go into to
go into our stash. Hope, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And now Hope has some sewing inspirations to share with you. Hope, I love this beautiful small quilt. Tell us a little bit about your inspiration.
I was teaching in Nashville at the Grand Ole Opry. We went there in the evening, and I was just enthralled with all of the white embroidery and silver metallic thread and crystals. So I started
on the country and western men's suits, right?
On the men's suits.
Wow.
Yes.
And so you have some white lace here with crystals on that beautiful quilt. I love your story. Hope, tell us a little bit about this beautiful top.
Well, this is a top for my daughter, and it has some machine embroidery that mimics traditional heirloom techniques of lace shaping. And then there are some little cathedral lace windows that are done on the embroidery machine with netting, some pin tucks with perfectly spaced candle wicking stitches.
I love it. And this adorable sundress, which can also be a nightgown, can't it, if in different fabrics?
Correct. We took a traditional nightgown pattern and created these pretty little gingham overlays. Created a cute little pocket with a ruffle, some applique, and the detail is the binding with a little bit of trim peeking out. Just very sweet.
And cute, pretty pink and green summer colors. I love this blouse, Hope. Now this one has, tell us a little bit about the binding.
This is, you can use with any V-neck shirt that has a facing, and we just actually glued and then top stitched, pin stitched, spaghetti bias, did some traditional lace shaping, and the pretty detail
the front
is here on the sleeve. You've got a beautiful sheer organdy teardrop with perfectly placed machine embroidery, and then some tatting that's added to the edge.
With the spaghetti bias. So you call it spaghetti bias. Oh, that's beautiful. And the machine embroidery. And another wonderful camisole.
Here's another pretty camisole with a traditional Madeira applique technique that's been recreated into machine embroidery designs. Some folded tucks, a little bit of puffing, some beautiful Victorian embroidery, and a little bit of silk satin ribbon to finish it off.
You know, I think this is so pretty with the traditional heirloom for ladies' lingerie, as well as for nightgowns, as well as for blouses, and you do such an incredible job.
Thank you.
Now Hope has a So Quick, So Easy project to share with you. Hope, I love your lace shaping in the hoop. This beautiful tablecloth, there was actually no sewing, just embroidery, is that correct?
Correct.
This is the lace shape, the double diamonds, with, I love that purple peeking out. And then to me, there's nothing any more elegant on linens than a monogram. And then the lace shaping in the hoop again. And I love to show our viewers the other beautiful ready-made tablecloth you have that starts with this time we have double ovals, or footballs as my grandchildren used to call them. And then coming down, this is absolutely beautiful. And it is an easy and quick way to do a beautiful, gorgeous heirloom tablecloth. Show us what you've done there.
Thank you, Martha. One of the things I love about sewing is when you do machine embroidery, you can purchase something ready-made, like the blank tablecloths that you saw, and you can use your embroidery machine to make beautiful gifts or home decorating items. Today we're going to talk about lace shaping in the embroidery hoop. A lot of lace shaping, you can do free form with lace, but what makes this so special, quick and easy is that we're going to use some English cotton netting, and then some water soluble stabilizer, and some cotton fabrics. The first step is you're going to hoop your fabric with a water soluble stabilizer on top instead of underneath, and in a minute you'll see why that's so important. And then we're going to lay our piece of English cotton netting on top of the hoop, just float it on top. Color number 1 will stitch out, and you can see the pretty outline starting to form for the lace shape. Color number 2 will then do some reinforced stitching, and at this point you'll take the hoop off the machine and you'll go ahead and you'll trim out all the excess netting that's on the outside of the ovals and on the inside, as you can see here. From this step, you'll go on and you'll continue to do some more machine embroidery, and it'll do a reinforced zigzag. Then you'll take your hoop off the machine and you'll turn the hoop to the wrong side and you'll trim out the base fabric. And that's what gives us the peekaboo effect, mimicking traditional lace shaping techniques. Another idea is if you don't want to trim out the back fabric, you could layer a piece of contrasting fabric, such as this purple handkerchief linen, with netting over top, and then just embroider a traditional applique, creating a pretty shadow effect.
And then show us a couple of little projects down there that you can put that on.
Here are a couple other traditional lace shaping techniques. We usually like to do a corner and then a pretty heart. The great thing about doing it in the embroidery hoop is your lace shapes are perfect every time.
Hope, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Martha.
And now I have some antique techniques to share with you. I was in London on a very cold Saturday morning in January in Portobello Road in one of the markets, and I found this unbelievably precious little dress that I guess it's probably from the 1940s or 1950s. There are so many details. I want you first of all to look at the whole little dress with the yoke. It's a high yoke dress, this wonderful puffing that has the neatest details on how to sew that puffing. Then if you'll just look at the whole effect of this dress, go down to the bottom and you can see it has a scallop skirt with gathered lace and then some embroidery. Now I want to come back and share with you major details. I love this dress. Okay, the little bias binding around the high yoke simply has some gathered, maybe a little bit less than 1 inch French lace around the neckline. And then there's a little bit of hand embroidery. And of course, for those of you that love machine embroidery, that's easy enough to do on the machine. The little sleeves are so sweet. It's just a little puff sleeve with a little gathered lace edging on the inside of the bias binding. Now this puffing is absolutely fabulous. I want to show you how to make the puffing with the double rows of gathered French edging. It is such a fascinating technique. And we come on down the dress and look carefully at the embroidery, and the embroidery actually goes in the scallops on the bottom of the skirt. The bottom of the skirt has simply been, this lace is gathered and stitched on top, and then you go up underneath it and trim it away. Now let me show you how to do this wonderful puffing. It's one of the most fascinating techniques I've ever seen. The first thing you're going to do when you draw off the skirt, now pretend like the skirt is a lot wider than this. You draw 2 lines, one a short seam allowance and the other one, I think this one is about 1 inch or a little over 1 inch, however wide you want your puffing. All right, I'm going to trace the lines first on the fabric. Then and remember this is a wide, it's a whole gathered up bodice. Then I'm going to attach the gathered lace to the flat edging to the top, and I'm simply going to straight stitch the edging onto the bottom line. So I've simply worked with lace on the top, which I did turn this down and attach this to a finished edge, but this one is just simply straight stitched on the other line. Now this is a wide front piece of the skirt. Okay, then the magic appears. Remember, this lace edge is finished. You come in and you pull some of the gathering threads and you begin to gather it up. And can you see how the puffing begins to appear? And you run the 2 rows of gathering on the bottom and 2 rows of gathering on the top. Now these rows, the gathering rows, of course, will be pulled out after it is attached to the dress. But you can simply see that from this straight piece that you attach the lace to the top and attach the lace on this skirt, on the whole skirt, you simply pull the gathering threads and adjust your gathers until you get it exactly the right size to fit the top yoke. Then you can see I have my top yoke. I'm going to put it right sides to right sides down right above on the first gathering row of the puffing, where my seam allowance will come right on the edge. Let me see if I can pull this up. Well, I can't see it there. I'll show you in just a minute. And then I'm going to go ahead and seam this yoke to my finished piece. Then when I turn the yoke up, Let me go over here and show you. When I turn the yoke up, the first one was seamed here, flipped back up, then I go back and zigzag. Let me turn it over now. I go back and zigzag here on the top because that needs to be stabilized too to the yoke. All right, you remember what we did? Straight all the way across, straight lace, lace attached to the top, run the 2 rows of gathering here, 2 rows of gathering here, push it up, make it the right size to fit the yoke, come in, attach the yoke to the bottom, and then when I flip it open, I'll do a little row of zigzagging to attach it. Let me bring the little dress back and show you that one more time since you've seen the magic. Now can you see how that goes together? Okay, I've put all of this flat, lace on the top, lace on the bottom, gathered it up exactly the right size to fit the yoke, sewed it to the bottom, right sides to right sides, flipped it up, and then sewed it to the top, and of course all the other embellishment would have been done before. I want to turn it over to show you the back of this dress. It's exactly like the front. So there was a lot of thought. This is truly a creative little dress. One more little thing I'd like to share with you. This dress is like the older dresses in that it has a little casing in the top with a ribbon to make it tight so it'll fit exactly the size little neck you want it to fit, which I thought was an interesting detail to have been added in the 1930s or 1940s. This is more of an 1880 technique, to tell you the truth. And then the little buttons and buttonholes. It's absolutely precious. I hope you've enjoyed that technique as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. And now I have some machine embroidery to share with you. I'm so pleased to have as my guest Pam Mahshie. Pam is Ambassador of Education for Baby Lock USA. Pam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Martha, again. Today we're going to be looking at machine embroidery, specifically looking at lettering. And with LetterWorks, here we have the variety of different style of fonts that we have to choose from. Now, fonts are different types of options that we have available for different letter styles. And if we look at the owl and then at the zebra, word zebra, we can certainly see that those two letter styles are completely different, and with the coloring we have available to us on the zebra. The sheep has an arced style of lettering, and then as we come down to the hippopotamus, it's always real important to know that we're spelling the words correctly, especially if we're on a child's quilt. And here we have in LetterWorks we have spell check available to us as well.
I like that. Mm-hmm. Pam, this is a darling way of using LetterWorks, isn't it?
It certainly is. And here we have a great memory pillow where we can combine different styles of lettering, punctuation, as well as numerals.
And I love this quilt. Oh, me.
The little wall hangings are great. And by working with the different fonts and different letter styles, again, to create lines of text, and then stitch these out to create longer types of wall hangings.
This is another beautiful wall hanging.
The beautiful letter style that we have there. And again, whether you're going to be using this to give as a gift or something that you want to hang in your home, you certainly can do that as well. So let's come over to the computer and look at our different styles of fonts and how we're going to select them. When we select our letter styles, we're simply going to click on a letter, click into our program area, and over in the text box, we have over 150 letter styles available to us. So here you have quite a selection of letter styles available. And as we scroll through those, you can certainly see the variety of letter styles. So let's just go ahead and pick one of those letter styles. Once we select the letter style, we then can type in whatever type of lettering or phrase that we're wanting to type in. So let's just type in Martha Pullen.
Oh, okay.
All right. Now, once we've selected that, we just click on Enter, and it brings up the information on the screen. Now, once we look at this on the screen, we notice that, well, I made a mistake in my letter. I typed a capital letter A instead of a smaller case letter A. So let's go back into our text box, backspace, click the small letter A, click apply one more time, and there it automatically changes. Now, just as we looked at our quilt earlier and we saw that we had different colors available to us, we can select one specific letter if we want to. Then go into our color selection box and change this to a different color. Once we've made the selection of that particular letter, we can also move it. And maybe we want to make a change in the orientation of our letters, or as these letters come up on the screen, we certainly have the opportunity to put them in any arrangement. Also, when we look at our screen, if we wanted to have the text, instead of having it side by side, we want to make the words top to bottom in orientation. Again, we just simply click on those letter styles or on the orientation box, and that's going to move our letters top to bottom now. After we have the letters selected, we certainly can then save them to a jump drive, or we can save them directly to our computer using the USB cable and save it into our machine or into our computer, and we're ready to sew it at any time we want.
How much fun, Pam. Thank you so much for sharing how we can write on our sewing.
Absolutely, we can write with our sewing machine.
Thank you, Pam, so
You're
much.
welcome.
And now I'd like to share a piece from my vintage collection with you. This beautiful dress would be certainly at least 1860, 1880, maybe even a little earlier. It's totally made by hand. The beautiful little lace edging is around the neckline. Let me show you the sleeves. These dresses were all so wonderful in that it just had a piece of embroidered, what we call edging for the sleeves, and some more of the embroidered edging, and the whole front bodice is covered with the embroidery. Coming down on the skirt, I absolutely love to see the way the skirts were made. I'm going to pull this up in my lap so we can show you a wonderful detail of the skirt. There are 4 sets of tucks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of these tucks, by the way, put in by hand. Another set of 5 tucks, another set of 5 tucks, and another set of 5 tucks, and then a beautiful, beautiful embroidered edging on the bottom of the skirt. Absolutely beautiful, and the whole dress is made and embroidered by hand. For my Sewing from the Heart for you today, I have a wonderful letter. Really, she didn't even sign her name, so this is just from a friend. I know lots of women who sew tons for charity, so I am not alone. Here is what I have been doing for the past 6 years. I decided to sew for foster children. I started out embroidering blank t-shirts and then progressed to pillowcases, each with a special design to match the fabrics. Then I started doing crayon roll-ups in the hoop and filling them with the prettiest colors I could find. Each one of the crayon roll-ups also had a brown or a black color because you do have to color tree trunks. I have made well over 300 and none have been quite the same. Along with the crayon roll-ups, I have done lots and lots of pencil toppers, putting a cute pencil in each. The crayon roll-ups were given individually to children, but the pencil toppers lived in a container on the desk so that the social workers always had a little something to give to a child. The crayon roll-ups became so popular, I got the name Crayon Lady, and people started giving me fat quarters. My favorite yardage of fabric is a fat quarter, and crayons. I think every woman alive has some sort of special talent that she can use to share with others. We all need to just figure out what it is so we can contribute and dig into it. Thank you for joining me. Won't you come back next time?